I think for most human beings, we have this feeling inside, this feeling that something is missing, something isn't quite right, but we don't know exactly what that is. So we search, we want answers, and we want to get to the bottom of what's missing. But it never quite arrives. I think the strange thing is that this happens for most people. This is the case. Your life might look completely normal from the outside looking in. But for you, there is this feeling, this subtle feeling that there's something that you can't put your finger on, that you've missed, something that isn't quite right. And I think for most people, whether they admit this or not, this is the case. I spent most of my life searching for this missing piece, wanting to know what this answer was that I was seeking, what this feeling was deep down, that there was something that I know, but I don't know what that something is. So that naturally sent me on a search to dig, to find, to look online, to research through everything that I could. Conspiracies, history, spirituality, and of course, the out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, and any type of spiritual experiences. That's where I really wanted to look, because those were the people that could give me those answers, that could give me the answer to what it is that I'm not quite finding. What I found is we naturally feel like life is going to be complete in some future event. There will be some moment in time in the future where our life will feel complete. Again, that never quite arrives. And when you look back on your life and you really look closely at this, you'll see that this has been an ongoing process for many, many years. And this can manifest in many ways. This can leave you with a feeling of disconnectedness from the world, from people, almost like you feel different to everyone else. You're not quite the same. You notice how other people act, but they're not like you. You can't find this one thing. You're aware and other people aren't. You're deeper than most people. But what I found is so many people think the same. So many people feel the same. There's almost a subtle feeling of disconnectedness from the present moment. But what this does, it just leaves you with this shadow or this grey cloud that's just subtle, but there constantly in the background. And you can never quite figure out what it is that's wrong. But from my experience, what I think is happening is that you are not actually missing anything. There's nothing that you've got wrong, and there's no answer that you need to get. What's actually happening is you're spending most of your life in thought. You're spending most of your life thinking about life rather than living life. This was a huge shift for me when I realized this. And it still happens now. And I do want to say that there's nothing actually wrong with thinking, with the thinking process itself. What's wrong is thinking that thinking will give you an answer. Thinking actually takes you away from this present moment, which is why you feel like you're not really present, which is why you feel like you're disconnected. Because when you're truly feeling and experiencing the present moment, there's nothing to think about. There's no answer to get. But what we do as humans is we naturally think, I will feel like this when I get there. When I get this answer, I will be complete. When I finally figure out the answer to this question that I've had for so long, Nothing will be missing. And it doesn't work like that. Like I said, if you look back, this process will have been happening most of your life. And what doesn't help this is when you start comparing your ideas and beliefs against others. You might have a strong belief, a strong idea about certain answers, certain truths that you hold. But then you might listen to someone online, you might listen to me, and I might say something that makes you question your belief. But really, again, this is a way that your mind is trying to intellectually figure out an answer. And it's stuck. It's stuck in this loop of constantly comparing your beliefs with someone else's belief until a new belief feels more concrete. But that new belief is a belief. It's not a direct experience. It's a thought. This might be very direct, but I really want to help as many people as I can because I've been through this for so long. I went on, to me, what felt like the deepest search. For years and years and years, I was chasing an answer. I was going through every rabbit hole, every conspiracy theory. I looked into aliens, the history of the world, family bloodlines, how the financial system started, how ancient civilizations seem to be completely different to us, how there seems to be ancient technology, how there's some architecture in the world that can't be explained. I went through everything. And even when I got an answer, I don't want to say the answer, but an answer that should have allowed me to relax, that should have allowed me to stop searching. What happened after that, when the experience of that answer became a memory, and that memory started to slowly fade? The search started again. Was that real? Was that true? I need to now know. I need to get that back. I need to know if that answer was the answer. It took me a very long time to recognize this loop had created itself again within my mind. I constantly felt like I was really close to finding the answer. I was on the edge, and it never arrived. It never came. But then something happened. Over the last few years, I've been noticing my mind and what it does. And when you start to slowly notice what the mind does, there's almost like, and this isn't the correct term, but there's almost like a separation between you and your mind. And there's a space where you're able to see the mechanism of the mind and how it works and how it constantly loops to try to just keep active, to keep itself running, to keep itself going. That's what this is. That's what this searching for an answer is, constantly trying to find what's missing. When I noticed this, I realized that's what that feeling is. The feeling of something missing is because I'm identifying with this loop that's been created. And what I started to notice was this loop was being created over and over and over again. And I noticed it in real time. I saw it happen. I watched it. And that changed everything for me. Because what I'd been searching for my whole life was an illusion. a mechanism of the mind, a way that the mind can stay active for survival. It's not a bad thing. It really isn't. It's a protective mechanism of the mind. But it's not really what we want to do. That's why we feel like something's missing. We feel like something's missing because we're attaching to a mechanism that is constantly searching, and we're fed up. We're fed up of it. This has been my experience anyway. We're fed up of searching. We just want our body, our nervous system wants to relax. It wants to stop. This is what I teach with embodiment. It's for you to slow down, to gently slow down and notice the patterns and the habits of the mind so that you can rest, finally rest in presence and live, not in thought, but in experience. Because what we've really been doing most of our life is psychologically moving away from life. We don't know it. We haven't understood that we have been constantly, every time we're presented with the present moment, which never leaves us, we're constantly moving out of it, going into thought, going into the future, anticipating and expecting future events, thinking about the past, thinking about memories, constantly planning and organizing life. And all of that is pulling you out of now. So you can live a whole life and never live. I don't want this to sound depressing. I don't want it to trigger anything. But I want you all to realize what I've realized, because it changes everything. It changes everything. You can finally live without the feeling of something missing. You can finally have natural joy, laughter, peace, love in your life. I constantly bring this up within my Patreon group. If that feels like something that's aligned for you, I'll link it below. And I want you all to know that maybe there was never anything missing. Maybe there was never an answer to get. Maybe the problem has been that you have constantly been pulling yourself away from this moment and haven't stayed in it long enough to realize what it is. And really, you might not have missed your life at all. You might just be completely exhausted from living it psychologically somewhere else.